Gee, that was fun to watch. Certainly, if you're an admirer of big hitting, because we saw some from Josh Butler. We've also therefore seen the first 100 of this season's IPL. 100 of 68 to Butler. That's powered Rajasthan Royals to 193 in their 20 overs after Rohit Sharma put them in. They had batting just till number 6, and those top 6 ended up facing 106 of the 120 deliveries. You think you'd take that then? If you are the Royals, lots of question marks about Mumbai's bowling, about Rohit Sharma's choice and use of bowlers. We'll address that at our halftime show on Maruti Suzuki Presents ESPN Cricket for T20 Time Out, powered by IQ 95G. We'll hear from Ben Cutting shortly. First up, Wasim Jaffer, 193. Rajasthan would be very happy with that, Wasim?
Very, very happy, yeah, and mainly because of the way Josh Butler has batted. You know, he can't do anything wrong against Mumbai Indians. Once again, they got everything right. I mean, Mumbai, we wanted them to bowl Bumrah for, couple of overs in the power play, but he was just too good for them. Outstanding knock. And the kind of bowling attack that Rajasthan have, it's, I feel, more than the past score.
Ben, first thoughts from you. When Josh Butler is teeing off, there's an inevitability about what could happen if you're a bowler, isn't there?
That's right. Yeah, there's once he gets going, he's tough to stop because he's so good all around the ground. Particularly up front in the power play there when he really took Thampy down early.
Is there a way to stop Butler? I guess that's a question that we have to ask first up before we admire his power hitting. It seems like he renders a lot of bowling attacks helpless, Ben.
Look, you're pretty much helpless unless your name's Jasper Bumrah and you bowl 150 km/h Yorkers. That seems to be the only thing that works.
Fair enough. Could Bumrah have bowled at any point earlier to Butler, Wasim?
Possibly, but again, I feel Mumbai Indians and Rohit as well has to think about the death bowling too. I mean, if Bumrah is bowled out, very early, he's just got 1 over left for the death, then it's problems as well, because you've got Hetmeyer, and if Butler bats through, then again it's a lot of problems. But I think most of the things, Rohit has done well. The 17th over probably could have, he could have risked giving it to Murugan Ashwin. But again, that's anybody who bowled that over, they would have gone after him. So you can't blame him for that. And on top of that, I think Butler, by the 15th over, he had batted almost 60 balls in those 90 balls. So it kept most of the strike as well. And that proved very handy for the Royals.
Yeah, as it turns out, it was funny that he didn't get a lot of strike around the time that Shimron Hetmeyer came on to bat. So otherwise, we could have even seen Josh Butler go to 120, 130. Who knows what he could have done if he faced another 15, 20 balls. But I guess questions will be raised about the potency or the penetration that Mumbai have in their bowling attack. Ben, if you look at it now, does this look like a weak bowling lineup?
Look, it's tough. Obviously, Thampy's one of their frontline bowlers, and when he goes around the park the first over, you really miss out on 3 others if you don't give him another crack. And that's where you've got to try and cover your overs with guys like Polly. Tim David, he didn't bowl today, but he is an option for 1 over down the track. But when your frontline bowler goes around the park, it really makes you thinner on the ground for your 5 or 6 options.
When you've gone for 26 of your first, does that just rule out the captain giving you a second? I mean, you could have a good second over, or was that just Josh Butler at the crease that stopped Rohit Sharma, Ben?
Look, probably a little bit of both. It is tough to come back from 26 off 1 over, but in saying that, you've only got to throw on the ball and see what happens. It certainly can't get much worse than that. Josh is obviously having a day out and picked him up very nicely in his first over, but have a chat to him, clarify his plans, try and keep the ball away from him. You certainly got to try and give him another over, I think, but get those matchups right.
Would you have given him another over, Basil Thampi, Wasim?
You could have risked it. Obviously, there's a big risk. Butler might have, Butler had a little bit of liking to it, the kind of length that he bowled in that power play. But with field spread out, you could have taken a little bit of chance. He would have, got few fielders to save him. But yeah, I mean, 1 bad over and then he's completely out of the game, and then that puts a lot of pressure on Rohit to manipulate the bowlers.
When Josh Butler's on song, I guess there are a few batters that look as good as him. What's the most impressive part about Butler's power hitting? It's different from, say, the likes of an Andre Russell that we saw last night. What do you admire most about Butler's power hitting, Wasim?
I think the areas that he hits the ball, I mean, he hits it literally everywhere. If you keep bowling length ball, he's going to go and ramp you over fine leg. He can hit you front of the ground. He can hit you through offside, through leg side. So I mean, it's the versatility that he can hit everywhere, every part of the ground, or whether it's spin, whether it's quick, say it doesn't matter to him.
We often call A.B. de Villiers 360 man. We say that very often, don't we, Ben Cutting? Josh Butler should be right up there too, if not 360, somewhere between 350 and 359.
The new AB, we'll call him. That's right. He, like Jaff said, it's 360 degrees around the ground. He's got that ramp shot. If you hit length, he can slog you over cow. And like we saw with the spinners, he can back away off the line and hit you over cover. So there really is nowhere to defend against him.
If you were bowling to him, though, at that point, what's the sort of one bowling plan you'd try and get to? Would you sort of ask a captain, maybe move everyone one side, try and bowl there? Doesn't seem like much, but is there anything you can do to at least keep him quiet, if not dismiss him?
Look, it's tough to put all your fielders or 4 or your 5 on one side because that just telegraphs exactly what you're going to do. And he's too good a player, to read that game. So probably you need an element of bluff. Set a few out on the leg side, hit the wide line for a few, drag him across, and then have a go at the stumps. But in saying that, you really need to, if you can bring Jasper back earlier and try and knock him over, that might change things. That might allow you to bring back Basil for another bowl. But that's all hindsight as well.
Could they have gone that way? There are a couple of strategic timeouts. You've seen how Chennai in a chase, Wasim, changed plans to try and make a game out of it. Could they have been tempted by saying, this team doesn't quite have the deep batting, so let's try and bowl a third or Bumrah, maybe even a fourth before the 16 and get Butler, and then you can still have Thampi or somebody else bowl at the end to that lower middle order?
I mean, that's a possibility, Raunak. But again, if it all goes wrong and Butler doesn't get out, then he's going to get 20 of last 2 overs. So, the 40 overs he easily could have got 40 in the last 2. So I mean, just like Ben said, it's in the hindsight. Rohit must have thought about it. It's easier said than done.
Ben, I'm coming to you with the greatest respect on this in terms of a modern day bowler who gets hit boundary, and what, I mean, there's something you've got to do to try and limit the damage, right? We've seen 2 overs today, one from Basil Thampi that went for 26, another from Pollard that went for 26. Now, Pollard's vastly experienced. Basil Thampi is still young, you'd think new franchise and whatnot. But what goes through your mind when you've been hit for a couple? The batter's lining you up. And is there anything you could do at that time to just limit damage?
Look, it's one of those things. There are nights that, as a bowler, you're off your game. And that probably makes you more insular, where you might not back your slow ball that you'd usually go to, or you might not back your Yorker that you usually rely on. It's important when you're under the pump like that, find someone to talk to, grab the skipper or another senior bowler, run a few ideas past them. It doesn't need to take long, just enough to take a few breaths, clear your head, and try and start that over again with a more clear plan. All you can do is try and execute your best ball. They're coming at you with their best plan. You want A versus A plans.
I wonder if in your T20 career you can recall a moment like that, where the bowling to a formidable batter, it's not started well, and either you've salvaged it by someone who's come up to you and given you a decent word of advice, or something else that you might have done. Ever remember an incident?
Yeah, look, there's usually a couple of those a season for every fast bowler. I remember playing for Mumbai and Wankhede, KL Rahul got me a pull shot, slog sweep, and then I bowled wide and slow, and he reverse swept me over third man who was up in the ring. So he was just picking. He knew every single delivery I was going to bowl before I bowled it.
Right. Not much you can do then. Let's just let's defer it to somebody like Josh Butler, who we've seen is capable of this sort of carnage in the past in the IPL as well. Right. 194 at one stage, they're looking good for 200 plus. So I don't know, maybe that's the chatter in the Mumbai dugout at halftime, Wasim. They could have got 200 plus, but 194, we should, at least consider we could still chase this down.
Yeah, I mean, there's a good chance that, there's some good quality batters in that side. Rohit needs to come good. Ishan, Pollard, Tim David, Tilak Verma looked good in the first game. So they have got the firepower. They just need to keep up the run rate. They don't need to fall back on that run rate too early. They are facing quality bowling attack. There's no doubt about it. But the pitch looks good and they've got the batting to do it.
I wonder if in the absence of Suryakumar Yadav and the Pandya brothers this year, Wasim, whether Rohit Sharma needs to bat any differently, try and tell himself he perhaps needs to bat more time than just play that sort of, completely risk-free cricket that he tends to.
I mean, today is not the game. I feel he needs to, take a little bit of time, but again, he needs to back his attacking game, because when he played for India after that T20 World Cup, he's been attacking a lot more. which we didn't see him do that quite often. He's generally takes a bit more time than he usually does. But today he needs to go, I mean, after a few balls and probably bat long as well. So, today is the day for him to come good.
Any temptation of a pinch hitter today or someone getting an unlikely promotion or an unusual promotion, Ben, because they don't have Surya, Rohit, Kishan, then you got two young kids in Anmol Preet and Tilak Verma. Is there a case to change that up?
Look, it probably depends if they get off to a flyer or not, or if they're behind the game. If it was me, I'd certainly look to throw Tim David or Daniel Sams up there at 3 or 4 position, particularly if the run rate is creeping up fast and hasn't been a great power play. I'm not sure how good a wicket this actually is. I know they got 193, but we saw a lot of the slow balls stopping in the wicket. So it'll be interesting to see if the wicket slows up even more and they keep proactive with their changes of pace.
You said that if they get 160, you're backing Mumbai to chase it at 193. Where do you stand, Ben Cutting, on your prediction?
No, I think they're about 20 over par looking at the wicket.
Very well. So Ben Cutting fancies Rajasthan to defend this. Wasim, thoughts?
Yeah, Rajasthan to defend this, but I feel if at over number 12 or 13, if they are only 2 down, I back Mumbai to do it.
Wow, that should make for a cracking game. Remember, D.Y. Patil has seen 210 been chased, or 205, I think it was, that was chased. On the other hand, we've also seen a thriller in a low-scoring game. This is, of course, an afternoon game. So keep your eye out on how Mumbai start. Rajasthan have an excellent bowling lineup. We'll pick up thoughts with Ben and Wasim at what will be our bridge show. Join us then, and we'll also build up to Gujarat against Delhi on Maruti Suzuki Presents ESPN Cricket for T20 Time Out, powered by iQOO 9 5G.